Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Below the Line, the podcast all about how movies are made. My name is Andres Ramirez, and I'll be one of your hosts. I'm a professional filmmaker, and I'm here with my good friend and co host, Mr. Zach Houston Scott. Would you mind introducing yourself, my friend?
Definitely. Thanks for having me, Andres. And I am happy to be co hosting this show with you as someone who's also had 10 years of experience in the film industry. So let's get the show on the road.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's crazy. So, if people read our description, we promise to break the fourth wall a lot into the eyes of the industry. So, would you mind explaining what does below the line means for the people? Like, why did we choose this name?
I can explain. So, typically on a budget sheet, we have two aspects of it. We have above the line, which is our directors, our producers, our investors. But below the line are the people that make up a movie. They make up the general, day to day action that happens, whether it's production assistant, whether it's a grip, whether it's a gaffer, whether it's someone who's just a cameraman on there.
Yeah,
They're the
and
people that have firsthand experience with everything to the below the line. So that is their
and
meaning behind it all.
some of these people are also very important. Like, for example, the cinematographer, everybody knows that category in the Oscars, is someone that is below the line, the production designer. Like, there's really important people below the line. In many ways, these people are the ones that are the heart of the movie. Without them, the movie doesn't get made. Even if you have all the above the line people, which are the director, the lead actors, without the below the line people, there's no movie really. Wouldn't you agree, Zach?
I agree wholeheartedly. Yes.
So we are also very passionate about topics in the film industry and movies and everything. So a movie came out about 2 weeks ago. We actually briefly discussed it because last time we spoke, for those that do not know us, obviously all our audience doesn't know us. Zach and I work together. He's a producer. We're currently working in a film together, so we also speak besides here. But we also love Marvel movies. So Captain America: Brave New World came out. So, what did you thought of the movie? Is it as bad as people say? What do you think? Let's talk about it for a little bit.
Well, to start off with, I guess I will say it's not as bad as people say it is, but it could have been a lot better. It could have been definitely a film that had it gone either a different direction or focused on a specific other character that isn't present in the film, one that hasn't really gotten a whole lot of attention since his last film in 2008, it probably would have been a better experience. As is, though, I'll get more into the details of it. I do feel this was Marvel's attempt to try and see if the name itself could carry the franchise going forward rather than the actor without Chris Evans and instead Anthony Mackie taking up the role. Whether or not it is successful, I mean, we'll talk later about the box office, remains to be seen, but overall, I don't think it was as successful as they were looking to have it. And given its extensive production history, I don't think it paid off to what they were looking for. So,
No, I mean I agree. I mean I think it's one of those movies that I don't know if you agree. The more you go with less expectations, the better it is. In many
mhm.
ways, like I don't know, MCU's current state is very bizarre because like some of the most recent films like Deadpool and Wolverine have been very good, very fun. But Captain America, I think, was also, I don't know, despite there being a lot of marketing, at least here in Mexico, there wasn't a lot of hype because yes, I live in Mexico, so I also have that perspective. Zach lives in Canada, but there was not a lot of hype, and I think that was also an issue. But I think going with very very low expectations, it's a decent action movie. Now, does it compare to the original trilogy? That's something to be discussed. Personally, I think Anthony Mackie has a lot of charisma and star power. I mean, he's an OG Avenger, and seemingly he's going to lead the Avengers in the Avengers movies that they're shooting. But I don't know. What were your thoughts on the whole thing? If you can elaborate on it.
Well, I took a dive into IMDb after just to see what other users say, and someone brought up that this was really just a special recap episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which,
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
budget felt like it's like the fact that the marketing spoiled like the big climax at the end with the reveal of the Red Hulk. I thought was very jarring because I mean that's already blowing like one of their big secrets, and just the fact that it really feels like a repeat of its themes and like everything that carried over from that show really doesn't feel like it's moving it forward, but just kind of regressing back into what the 2021 politics were at the time.
Let me add something. I don't know if you watched the pitch meeting. Shout out to the pitch meeting YouTube channel, even though they don't need a shout out from us. But it's funny how he made fun of the film because in both the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Cap 4, he kind of solves the issue by just saying you have to do better, like calm down, which is it's kind of funny because he gives a huge speech in the end of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and in this one he also gives a huge speech, and that's how he defeats Hulk. Which I don't know. You're right in that sense that it feels like an extension of that show.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting perspective. Do you think that the Thunderbolts is also in that similar level of I don't know, of trouble? Because I mean, you could argue that the Winter Soldier and this Captain America were the two things that we get left over from that show.
Well, the benefit with Thunderbolts, I think, is that it is having the one thing that this Captain America is missing, and that a lot of it had to do with it was about the Winter Soldier or Bucky Barnes. Like
Yeah.
he was the heart, the motivation that Captain America was looking for, especially in the later two sequels, as well as what his call to action was in becoming that character. I'm not saying that Anthony Mackie's Captain America, Sam Wilson, doesn't have anything like that, but already the fact that we're getting the most interesting character from that show headlining a new team that's all about repenting their past mistakes and actions as anti-heroes is far more interesting than what we got with this movie where it was just more or less a retread of what the Winter Soldier did, but necessarily just having the you know same old approach that we thought
Yeah.
we enjoyed a decade ago but now is getting a little tired now that we're like 30 plus movies in.
Well, and I think the biggest issue, if we talk a little bit spoilers, I think most of our audience probably has seen the movie by now, is the issue that, ironically, this is a weird sequel to the Hulk, to the, correct me if I'm wrong, early mid 2000s Hulk with Edward Norton. That weird, awkward film. While it's canonically part of the MCU, it's also very awkward because Edward Norton refused to come back. So they had to recast. So that always felt like a leftover in the MCU. Like while it's canon, they rarely mention it. And all of a sudden, like 20 years later, this movie has all the plots coming from that movie. Like the villain, the Liv Tyler makes a cameo. It's an insane kind of like, hey man, you remember what we looked in the first year of college? Well, that's going to be in the final for your senior year. Like I don't know, it sort of feels like very cumbersome. It's not even Cap villains from the comic or anything like that. Like, what do you think about that Hulk and uh, being a weird sequel to that film?
No, no, I agree with you. And definitely to elaborate what I was saying earlier, had he been the focus, like maybe instead of, Captain America and this whole race war to try and get the vibranium, for those who haven't, or not vibranium, sorry, adamantium,
Adamantium, yeah.
now that we're getting introduced to the X-Men and specifically Wolverine, I think it would have been better if it was like a gamma race of some kind, because that's a topic we haven't really heard from in the Marvel movies as of late. And I mean, the Hulk is essentially one of the core Avengers who's still pretty active. And I mean, outside of an appearance from She Hulk, we haven't really seen much since Endgame. So I think this would have been a perfect opportunity to reestablish him as that core factor, as well as introduce, I don't know, maybe other characters from the comics that are part of the Hulk's legacy. Like, I don't know, just if they focused on that, maybe it would have been better. But as it stands, it does feel like a leftover, preheated kind of quasi sequel, and throw in Tim Blake Nelson's leader, who's just, yeah, there for no reason apart from,
Well,
oh, he's pulling the strings
so,
behind the scenes.
sorry if I interrupt you a little bit, but would you mind remind people who the leader is? Because I know we've both seen that, but he's such a weird character to bring back. Even like the Giancarlo Esposito character, he's advertised as the main bad guy, but the leader is really the main bad guy. But if I'm being honest, when I saw the movie, I had to take out my phone, go online, and say, who is this guy? And thankfully, Wikipedia has all the plot summaries by now, but it's very bizarre how they expect you to remember something that happened 20 years ago. So, who was he? And because I'm not as familiar, was he comic book accurate? Like, how did you felt about that portray, considering it
Well,
took 20 years to pay off?
it didn't pay off, I'll say that much. And not only that, I mean, the leader is a Hulk villain. He's a mind controller who thinks ahead and is similar in the way to Doctor Doom, but utilizes his gamma radiation to create bad guys and also to essentially mind control people. Like Tim Blake Nelson played Samuel Stearns in 2008 as the person who was trying to help Bruce Banner not become the Hulk and cure him essentially. And then you remember when the gamma stuff falls on him that he
Yeah, it's
ends
like a liquid, right?
a liquid, yeah, that ended up growing his head. Well, I mean, I've also seen leaks online of a more comic accurate version where his head is supposed to be elongated and big, which, I mean, maybe they changed in reshoots due to the backlash that Kang received, but I think they could have gotten away with it given that this would have been full makeup versus Kang's weird CGI
That was
mistake.
Modoc, right?
Or Modoc, no, why did I say Kang?
Yeah,
Apologies.
Modoc. Yeah, I mean that CGI floating face. Yeah, I mean he's supposed to look like Megamind, right, from the animated film, right? He's supposed
Yeah,
to look like that. Yeah, I
exactly.
mean,
No, I was very
yeah.
disappointed with how he looked. Is a very weird. I guess the best way I can describe him is Doctor Doom from 2015's Fantastic Four. Like,
Oh, the Fan Force.
yeah, of course.
I
So
think
weird.
the only good thing about that film is Miles Teller. Such a shame he's not coming back.
Mm, is it though? Is it though?
I mean, he was just coming from Whiplash, and I have a soft spot for Whiplash, so maybe that's why I liked him a
Oh, I know.
lot.
He redeemed
Uh,
himself in Top Gun Maverick, and I know he has a new show out with Anya Taylor Joy. I think,
it's a movie.
is it a movie?
It's a movie in Apple
Oh, The
TV. It's
Gorge.
called
Yes, you
The
are correct.
Gorge. Yeah, it's apparently a mixture of things. Maybe we can talk about it sometime in the future because, from what I've heard, it's a weird movie. It's like a
Mm.
romance, post-apocalyptic, military film. There's like a mumbo jumbo film of things. I have not seen it personally, but I've heard things online. I was gonna ask you. So, what was the thing you liked the most about the film?
The Red Hulk, if I had to be honest. Just seeing that Hulk, it was cool. Seeing like a proper like him smashing things, I think we haven't seen in a while since even before
Since
Endgame. Marvel was slowly
yeah,
turning Hulk into more domesticated, and I don't know, just seeing a giant red monster destroy the White House and a bunch of flowers and cherry blossom trees. I thought, my lizard brain likes this. So,
yeah. I mean, he kind of was a Hulk. Fun fact: they say that on set they didn't actually had to use CGI. You know why?
why?
Because they just had to ask Harrison Ford who shot first 1,000 times. A legend says he actually became Red Hulk.
So that was finally the result of one too many Star Wars questions being asked. About
Yeah,
time.
he got tired of saying "I don't care." You know, he got tired of that. So, for me, do you think the budget issue? You know, there's so many rumors. Supposedly it cost 180, but supposedly it had like 4 or 5 reshoots. Do you think the reshoots really affected this movie? Was it the political landscape around the US? Like, where do you think this movie went sideways? Because personally, I think it was in the script from the very beginning. I don't think they knew what they wanted to do. Like, for example, that sequence where he fights. What's Giancarlo Esposito's character's name?
Oh man, they're asking the good questions. Knockoff Punisher, I want to call him, but I
Anyways, yeah, when he fights Knockout Punisher in the street, you know the sequence that I'm talking about, right?
do.
It sort of feels like they were trying to recreate when Cap fights Bucky in the what's the middle one in the trail, the second one, the Winter Soldier,
The
right?
Winter
When
Soldier.
when they fight in the street, but that one felt so odd because it sort of felt like they shot that in a reshoot and it
Mm.
didn't have the emotional complexity of that one. So it sort of felt like the script was trying to bring stuff from other movies from the Cap series, have this spy thriller. Where do you think it all went wrong?
I think a lot of it just had to do. You are correct with the script, but also I think Marvel has the tendency to hire inexperienced directors because they're so by the committee. Like they're just essentially these episodes of TV shows that a showrunner, Kevin Feige, has been running for a very long time. That I don't necessarily blame him, but it's just given the circumstances with like the amount of content being pumped out from the studio, which I know they're looking to rectify now, has definitely stretched himself thin. That either he's entrusting people who don't know what's best or what think a Marvel movie should be, but not to be funny or anything, doesn't really have an end game in sight because they're just throwing everything. As well, too, I feel last couple Captain America movies, that was funny, by the way.
That
Uh,
was sorry. I'm getting the hang of podcasting. I know that was super delayed, but it was meant to emphasize the joke.
so funny. But no, just to add on to that, I think we now are kind of in a post Trump era. Like, obviously, he's still being a big part of the world. He's president of the United States, but this is the first Captain America movie that is released well after his first presidency. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that everything has been so politicized over the course of 9 years, and the fact that they are very much well knowing Disney that they have chosen who they wanted to support in this instance. And they're coming from a Democratic leader to a Republican leader and knowing well the results and how they are going to be. And as well, too, just more that it comes down to really this political character now lives kind of
Yeah,
where everything is romanticized by this man. And I mean, even like when you have a similar character, even though the director claims that, oh no, he's not meant to be a representation of Trump, a part of me agrees, but a part of me believes that reshoots had a hand in softening
of
the blow a
course.
little bit. And I mean, that's
And I
just
think even some storylines were cut. Like I
oh,
think the Isaiah Bradley. storyline that he goes to the jail and all of that was meant to go somewhere, but I think it was left in the cutting room. You
Well,
know,
it was
I'm kind of curious to
too
see the
much. Yeah.
director's cut because, maybe it's, I'm not saying a better film, but a more compelling film with its storylines.
Hmm.
So you would agree that Marvel is struggling right now. I mean, obviously, last year was really good for them with Deadpool and Wolverine and all the money it made.
Hmm.
Although nowadays we won't talk in much length, but Ryan Reynolds' personal life is also kind of, uh, how
Going
would
down
you
the tank a little
frame it?
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, he's with some turbulence. He's in an airplane with some turbulence. That's how I would put it. Obviously, this year it's a very important year for Marvel because they're setting up the big Avengers movies. But do you think their slate this year can take them to get the hype that they need as they did back in 2019?
I think a part of me does. I mean, what we have next is Thunderbolts for movies, and I feel that one may not do so well, like box office wise, but I am curious to see how it does financially, even though it is just Marvel Suicide Squad. But the one that does need to be a big success is Fantastic Four First Steps. This is the first time that these characters need to essentially play a big part in the new MCU. This is the only franchise from Marvel that hasn't had like the definitive adaptation that they're so looking for. And I mean, this their villain is meant to lead into the next Avengers movies as the lead with Robert Downey Jr. If he does,
As Victor Doom.
yeah,
I mean, he has to appear, right? Because they're not from Earth. Is it 616? The Earth that we're on in
I mean,
MCU.
yes, I believe so. And then they're on a different Earth.
Well, they're supposed to be in another universe, right? But they're supposed to come to the MCU via the multiverse, right? Yeah, I agree with you. I think Thunderbolts could be like an Andor for Disney in the sense that it might be a really, really good film, but there's not a lot of people kind of looking forward to it, or maybe people don't watch it. What was the budget on that film? It's cheaper than Cap, right?
Yeah, way cheaper. I'm thinking probably less than 150 million.
Between 80 and 100, probably. I,
So a little more.
I think it can make its money back if the film is enjoyable. But what do you think about the Disney Plus shows? Because the next thing that Marvel will come out with is Daredevil Born Again, which has come with a huge amount of controversies. Whether the She-Hulk events are canon, whether what's his name, Foggy, and what's his girlfriend,
Karen?
Karen, were coming back, and now they're all coming back. So, what do you expect of that show? Do you think it'll be a follow up from that Netflix show that everybody wanted, but Disney didn't, and now they do? Like, what do you think?
100%. I think it's going to be a continuation of that. And as long as they keep it more in line with that series, its positive aspects, I definitely is going to succeed. I mean, Daredevil himself has been probably one of the best aspects of shows and movies. Like him appearing in Spider Man No Way Home was a great start. Him appearing in the Echo show. Actually, shout out to him and oh god, the person Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin
Oh,
for making
Kingpin, yeah,
Echo worth watching just for him. And even like the She-Hulk show, like his brief appearance basically helped elevate, in my opinion, the show to like
the
all
show.
to watch. Oh yeah, so I think it'll be strong, and people
I
will
th-
want to watch it.
I think so too. I think I'm excited for that show. Comes out March 4th, so we'll definitely talk about it. But I think out of the slate from Marvel, their weakest spot is Ironheart. Uh,
You
which,
actually literally made me remember that show was even a thing.
well, I mean, is that she was introducing Black Panther, right? Wakanda Forever, which came out
Mhm.
what 2 years ago.
2023. Yes, it did come out then.
She was like a secondary character, and now she is like getting her show. I just don't know if people remind who she is. Essentially, I think she's one of those characters that I don't know. Which actually, uh, I don't know. It could be really good, but I think that's the most weakest part of the MCU. My hope is they release all the episodes before Fantastic Four, so there's no competition. Because I agree with you. I think Fantastic Four has to be the thing that makes the MCU get the hype they want for next year Avengers movies.
Definitely. And I think with Ironheart, I think it's to fulfill Marvel's quota and that we have a young Avengers team that are just carbon copies of the old Avengers team. A lot of them who are women. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just funny how a lot of it came to be like that. And also, I don't feel like this character necessarily works in the context of how she was set up because if her mentor or inspiration was supposed to be Iron Man, then where does that leave the Tom Holland Spider Man who was already set up to be like the protege from his trilogy and how he was being set up? It doesn't feel
Yeah,
really
oh, good
established,
point.
especially because he doesn't know like this person has taken on her stuff. That's just my logic with everything that they need
Plus,
to.
nobody knows he's Peter Parker because of the
Exactly.
spell.
True.
So even if I think the only person that knows who he is Doctor Strange. But outside of Doctor Strange, nobody knows who Peter Parker is. So they wouldn't even be able to get hooked up or something to talk Tony Stark. Um, I was gonna say something about the Fantastic Four. I hope it is as entertaining as The Incredibles because I think they're borrowing a lot of it because the time period, the futurism aspect of it, it's definitely gonna help it. But I'm excited to see what's his name from Stranger Things. I think he's gonna steal the show as
Oh,
Johnny
Joseph Quinn.
Storm.
Joseph Quinn.
Yeah, yeah, he's gonna be amazing. I'm excited to see what Pedro does, but yeah, that movie has to be really good and have very good legs because it's coming out in July, if I'm not mistaken. How to Train Your Dragon, Jurassic Park or World, the one with Scarlett Johansson, are going to
Rebirth
be competing with that movie. So that
and
movie has to be very, very good.
yeah, no, it's going to be a packed July. I mean, the Superman movies, especially, is probably going to be its biggest competition.
Well, I'm excited about that one, but I'm also very nervous because James Gunn, every time he speaks, he brings more doubt into the DCU. Like he spoke recently, and I think he made more people confused about where the DCU is going. Like the slate makes no sense.
That's a discussion for another time.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, since you between ours, I'm more of a director person for people to get to know us a little bit, and you're more the producer person. So do you want to explain people the reality of Captain America: Brave New World box office results?
Definitely. I think people expected it to be lower than anticipated because, I mean, there's a little less interest. Like, again, Marvel was bagging on the name alone in order to carry them. It wasn't obviously going to make $1 billion like Civil War did, but that was practically an Avengers movie in of itself at the height of its series popularity. Um, I don't think it's like the terrible Marvel's S disaster that came out where it didn't even break even and it was a bomb. But I don't imagine it making as much as probably the Winter Soldier or even my guess it'll probably make more without adjusted to inflation, the first Avenger. But again, with its second week drop, it just shows that these movies are pretty front loaded. Heck, you can even look at the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 as a prime example. It beat Mufasa for a couple weeks and then Mufasa overtook it. And at the end of the day, Mufasa ended up overgrossing it because it just had stronger legs since
It
Sonic
had
was
more legs,
first
yeah.
uploaded in
Yeah.
those couple weeks. And I mean, Disney will keep this in theaters for a while, so it'll probably help a little more keep it in there. But I think as they're transitioning over to Snow White, that'll probably change in the coming weeks when that movie is going to be up in theaters.
Oh boy, from a controversial movie to another controversial movie.
Again, that's
Uh,
another topic we can say, but I will just say,
but
uh, yeah, the new Snow White, folks. Just biased opinion. Please don't watch it, just for your sake.
to be honest, I wish them the best because I think, you know, as a filmmaker myself, I want people to watch my movies, right? So I wish them the best, but I also wish that Disney supports the marketing and social media account person because they are probably struggling, and you know, all the tweets and all this stuff. It's going to be a very difficult job for those people trying to promote this movie. I don't really envy them, you know.
No,
Uh,
I really don't either.
it's probably a very rough thing to go through. Yeah, I mean, I agree with the box office. I think it's going to be comparable to probably Quantum Mania. The Ant Man kind of came out in the same weekend,
Yeah.
but I mean, the MCU is struggling. I just wanted to bring one more thing regarding the MCU before we
Mhm.
move to the Oscar talk, just to tease it up a little bit. But Hideo Kojima, who is a game designer, most notably for Death Stranding, right, with Norman Reedus, right?
More
Not
so
that
for his work on Metal Gear Solid, but yeah, Death Stranding is his big one.
it's his most recent one, right?
Yeah.
He just recently mentioned that he had trouble following up with the movie because he had not watched the TV show. So, do you think Disney Plus is to blame for the mess that the MCU is on at the moment? And you know, it's ironic because we were talking about how good Daredevil could be, but it's still stuck in that Disney Plus ecosystem. So, what do you think? Like, how can Disney and Marvel solve this issue while still having to produce for Disney Plus? Like, how do you make a show not feel like homework for some people?
Well, I think Kojima, first of all, didn't even see the ending of Endgame and couldn't put two and two together when the old Steve Rogers gave, Sam Wilson his shield. So honestly, I think people would have been able to skip okay Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't necessarily think it's the fault of Disney Plus. I think it was just under an old regime that forced them to make content, and that content is slowly becoming network TV. Even Marvel's no can to this. We had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a decade on ABC that completely tiptoed around the events of the movies or acted as clean up crew. Same thing with the Inhumans, same thing with Cloak and Dagger. So I think more or less like it's something that Disney Plus isn't necessarily to blame, but rather just the orders to broaden the brand as much as possible and sell, sell, sell because they wanted to drive up the subscriber count. And I think Captain America Brave New World doesn't suffer from that. Like something like the Marvels does suffer, where it
Yeah,
makes you like you need to watch WandaVision, you need to watch Ms. Marvel, you need to watch to a lesser extent Secret Invasion in order to get its story.
and Doctor Strange,
Oh, and Doctor Strange, exactly.
slightly.
Like that crippled its chances because that is requirement and a lot harder versus this one, which yeah, you need to watch the Incredible Hulk and maybe you can watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it's not necessary. Like people could put two and two together from the end of Endgame and
Yeah,
even to lesser extent Eternals, if people remember that.
that's a very interesting film because they finally addressed it in Cap 4. I mean, it's also interesting that they're sort of rebooting midway through the phase because I sort of think that the most important films you need to watch before Avengers is uh, Spider Man No Way Home. Is it No Way Home?
Yeah, No Way Home.
Doctor Strange, Captain America, and of course Fantastic Four. I think those are the four core movies to understand where this is going for, and
Hmm.
maybe Ant Man. But Ant Man had Kang, and Kang is no longer the villain, so I don't think it's necessarily that important. So I think that by rebooting midway, they're sort of saving grace by overproducing in Disney Plus. If that makes sense, I don't know if you agree or disagree.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
So, shall we talk about the Oscars happening this weekend?
Yeah, we can talk a brief about that. No, some controversial selections this year, some big surprises. My money is personally on The Substance to win Best Actress. That was my favorite
Demi
movie
Moore,
here.
yeah.
Oh yes, Demi Moore. I
I
would like
mean,
to win Best Picture, but I know there are better options out there.
I think Demi Moore has it locked, especially after uh, this past weekend with SAG. Winning SAG definitely cemented her as a clear front runner for that film.
Hmm.
Uh,
I agree.
so, who do you think is going to win Best Picture? That's an interesting conversation because I think there's a lot of takes, but who do you think will take Best Feature?
To me, I think it's going to be The Brutalist. As much as I
Ooh,
really want Nora to win, I think
have
it
you seen both?
I've only seen Anora. I haven't seen The Brutalist, but it's the safe bet. I'm a big fan of Sean Baker's work, notably his Red Rocket that came out a couple years ago with Rex. Oh God, what's his name?
That was the one about a man who is a porn star, right?
Yeah,
Or something like that. Yeah.
Rex Simon starred in it. Great movie. Or Simon Rex, not Rex Simon.
Shot in Texas, right? It's made in Dallas, I think. That's the setting.
Hmm. Correct.
And he shot it in 16.
Yeah.
Uh, that's the one I'm missing from him because for me, Sean Baker really like his style, but sometimes I really like his movies. Sometimes I'm somewhere in between. Like I love Tanora. I really like the Florida Project, and the other two movies I'm more in between. If that makes sense.
No, definitely. And even Tangerine. I mean, he shot that thing with an iPhone, and I mean, that's just
5S.
cool because
Um,
I mean it came out around the time when we were both starting around film school. So just to have that already mindset, oh, you can shoot movies with your iPhone now. That's so groundbreaking. Like,
well, talking about the iPhone filmmaking, it's 28 years later, right? That's all shot in an iPhone.
right? Like,
Allegedly, allegedly, all shot in an iPhone. But yes, it's all shot in an iPhone, right?
yeah.
Um, so you have not seen the Brutalist. Why do you think he'll win? I'm just curious because, like, I've seen it. I think it's a cinematic experience that I would recommend people to watch on theaters. I don't think. I mean, I know it's available on iTunes and digital platforms in the US, so I presume it's available in Canada.
Hmm.
Um, but I would not recommend people to watch it on their TVs because I think this film is very designed for a theatrical experience because it even has the intermission and they make it out an experience, right? Like the intermission doesn't go blank. It's like you still hear music. It leaves you to think a little bit. I think the movie is very thoughtful, even on how it's framed and everything. But what do you think it'll win? Like, if you were a voter, would you have voted for the Brutalist without actually seeing the film?
I mean, that's kind of the controversy with the Oscars is have people really researched or even seen these movies? But I mean, to me, just from looking at it, Hollywood really loves a period piece, which obviously this movie is. It's set in the 40s to, present day. I just think it's got the cast backing it with Adrian Brody and Guy Pearce, Felicity Jones. I've just heard nothing but great things about it. Its length plays a factor into it, being 202 minutes and being probably the first Hollywood movie to have an intermission in some time. I could be wrong with that, so correct me.
I mean,
But
the last movie I recall with an intermission was Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, and that was 2003.
So there you go. And
But
feel movies like this typically do very well in the eyes of critics and Academy voters. So,
I mean, it is really good. But something that struck out to me in SAG that was a Timothée Chalamet win as Best Actor. I sort of thought like, did the actors really took the time to watch Adrian Brody's full performance? Because I think Adrian Brody's performance really builds up to the second part of the movie. Like
mhm.
I think most of the clips they've shown in award shows are from the second part of the movie, not from the first part. Like his character really builds, and it becomes much more emotional after the crossing of the third act, like before it reaches the climax. And
Hmm.
that's when he becomes way more emotional and his performance really shines and the themes of the movie really come across. But the fact that Timothy Chalamet won made me curious to, did the actors really took their time to watch this 3 hour and 40 movie? So I don't know. I think it's up in the air. Also, Anora would join. What's that movie by Ang Lee that won DGA, PGA, and WGA, and they lost Best Picture? It's with Heath Ledger.
Oh, Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, Anora would join that club of
Yeah.
winning all the guilds and losing the Best Picture award.
But I mean, we'll have to see this Sunday just how well it does and is. So
What were your thoughts on Anora? Did you like it?
I did. I thought it was really, I mean, just a lot of his movies are set in that reality of sex workers and just, how they live their lives in these exotic places. And I mean, the woman in question, Mikey Madison, does a fantastic job playing that
She's
character.
wonderful in the movie.
Very wonderful. Oh yeah, like this is a woman that, not to go off topic or anything, but I mean, like Tarantino was on something when he cast her and like Sydney Sweeney and Margaret Qualley just in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like really
Was
discovered
Sydney
her.
Sweeney in that movie?
She was one of the Manson girls.
Really? I don't
Yep.
recall her. I remember Margaret Qualley and her, but I don't remember Sydney Sweeney.
Oh yep, Sydney Sweeney's in it. It's incredible actually. Just like
Wasn't that Elle Fanning?
Elle
Or
Fanning
no, Dakota Fanning?
for the movie, I believe so. I believe it was Dakota Fanning.
It was Dakota Fanning, but Sydney Sweeney too? I just didn't remember. Um, that's crazy. I just didn't remember.
I
But yeah,
know.
I guess Tarantino is good at casting. Good. Yeah, he's one of the best for a reason, I suppose.
Oh yeah, he just
Uh,
saw something, and I mean, just no, it's an evolution of that performance, and I mean, her and Scream as well. She was a lot of fun.
so I wanted to ask you. We're almost wrapping out, but
Yeah.
what do you think the Academy should do to increase the ratings? Obviously, this year there's a lot of controversies because there's no performances. Although Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are performing Wicked songs, like what do you think the Academy has to do to make the ratings go up?
Well, I mean, controversially, they introduced a new Oscar that's basically one for box office achievements, but they didn't put Inside Out 2. They added Wicked in there because I'm just going to call it the Feminine Oscar Award. Like, here, you're a female driven award. Here you go. Because, I mean, if Barbie won last year, that made sense. But
Oh
seriously?
yeah, although that felt more like a consolation prize because Barbie didn't win anything at all.
Yeah, if Dune 2 came out that year, I rest assured Barbie wouldn't have gotten a lot of awards. But I think to help it, they just need to be a little bit more open to, I think, YouTube and letterbox critics, people now who have access to this kind of content and are putting it out all the time. Like, I think the Academy is so limited to people who have been around for years, it's becoming a little predictable. And I mean, like,
Absolutely.
the Golden Globes, they just need to flush out and just to get new people, like different walks of life. I'm not saying like, you need to have like a specific quota of people to fill it up, but just experts on the topic, not regular people, but people who are excited. And maybe, consider or reconsider like why some movies make more money than others. I'm not saying to nominate Marvel movies all the time, but I
No,
mean,
no,
look
no.
at something like, for example,
Dune.
Transformers 1. That was a really well told story, and that wasn't nominated for an Oscar. I mean, even this year with The Substance, they gave that movie quite a chance. Like, it's nominated for Best Picture and Best Actress and makeup and everything. Like, that's brilliant. And it's director's nominated. Like, that's what you love to see. Um, I just think they need to consider looking at movies that do have a bigger impact on people. And I mean, you can go to the indie ones, you're always going to go back to it, but just, I don't know, we need like that Lord of the Rings. We need more of the Barbies
Yeah,
and stuff like that. Just those big ones that keep people from coming to watch it and being more included in it. That's just my take.
absolutely. No, I mean, I also think that the length of the show is too long.
Yeah.
It's a 3 hour show, right? I don't know if you had the chance to watch the BAFTAs, but I kind of like how they do it. Like they pre record the show and they cut it. Is it disrespectful that we don't get to see the best cinematography award? Maybe, but they really have a flair to it. Like for example, even a long show like the SAG that got produced by Netflix, I thought it was really good
Hmm.
because they didn't had commercials. They always had something engaging in the screen, right? In the broadcast made by Netflix. So I think they should make the show feel faster, right? Also less predictable, right? I
Agreed.
would move it back to February. March is too late. Like we all know that the first award of the night is going to be Best Supporting Actor, and Kieran Culkin is going to win.
Yeah.
Like there's no tension with that aspect, and I miss the days where you didn't know who it was going to win. So let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you. So let's go with our most important predictions. So who's gonna take best directing?
Ooh, that's a good one. Best director.
So to remind you, the nominees are Sean Baker for Anora, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown James Mangold, Emilia Perez Jacques Diot, and The Substance Coriel Forget. So who's taking best directing?
It'll probably be Bradley Corbett, as much as I wouldn't even mind like having Corley Fargett or James Mangold take it. I think Sean Baker's close to getting his Oscar. I think like Nolan, he just
So
needs like
who's your
one
pick?
more movie. I would go with Bradley Corbett for The Brutalist.
Okay, I'm going with Sean Baker. I gotta support my boy from NYU, so I'm going Sean Baker. So okay, let's go. Let me find the nominees. Best cinematography: The Brutalist, Dune 2, Emilia Perez, Maria, or Nosferatu.
Whew, I am torn between Dune 2 and Nosferatu, personally.
Ooh, nice. So who are you going with?
If I had to pick between the two of them, I would go probably with Dune 2. I think Greg
Ooh,
Fraser is such a fantastic cinematographer. I mean,
he's
he
a
did
great
the
DP.
last Batman movie and he just knows his
Chef
style.
Kiss.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my pick. I'm going with The Brutalist.
Ooh, okay.
And I mean, that film is shot in 70 mil. It's very technical. So this is how it rated. I think it's The Brutalist, Nosferatu, and then Dune. That's
Okay.
how I think. So, actress in a supporting role, who do you think it takes it?
And a supporting role for actress?
Yeah.
Easily that to me is, as much as I don't want to say it, Ariana Grande for Wicked.
You think she's upsetting Zoe Saldana?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really don't want to give any support to Emilia Perez.
We'll
Just,
talk about that movie another time,
yeah,
but
we will have to talk about it. I'm surprised we didn't even talk about it once during this whole podcast until now.
I mean, it is a film that I rather see how it does. But so you think Ariana Grande is taking it?
Yeah, I believe so. Then we can say our first Nickelodeon star is now an Oscar winner.
See, I would love for Ariana Grande to take it, but I think Zoe Saldana has that super grabbed, you know.
I suppose so.
So let's go actress in a leading role. Who do you think
Demi
would take it?
Moore. No question asked. Demi Moore.
I think it's a 50-50 between Mikey and Demi, but I think Demi's career will give her the edge, so I'm going with Demi Moore as well.
Yeah, because this will
So,
help a lot too in future movies. Like I heard she's a front runner for the remake of Tangled as Mother Gothel, so this will be that push. That
oh, she would do great with
I
the
know, right?
makeup. I mean, they already have her in that. They just have to hire that makeup team.
I know, right?
Uh, yeah. So, actor in a supporting role, who would you like? Who do you think is taking it?
Kieran Culkin easily.
See, I would love to see an upset with Yura Borisov. I think his performance in Anora is amazing, and he's very much the heart of the film in many ways. But I agree, Kieran Culkin will take it. So, the UC one, actor in a leading role, who takes it?
I mean, if it were up to me, Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump. Have you heard that
I,
performance?
I mean, I thought the performance was phenomenal. Like, in a way that he didn't make fun of Trump, like, it was not an imitation. He actually evolves as Trump, if that makes sense. Like, it's very interesting to see the beginning of the film. He looks not so confident. And by the end of the film, he has all the mannerisms. And I thought that was a very good character arc from a performing standpoint. But
Yeah, his free publicity and biopic, like that's legit the Donald Trump story. So,
so
but
who's your take? Sebastian Stan?
that's my want, but I know hearts that it's going to be Ralph Fiennes for Con.
Oh, you think Ralph Fiennes?
Yeah, I think he deserves to get at least one.
Mr. Lord Voldemort himself.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I'm going with Timothy Chalamet.
Mm, I think maybe that was probably just for him because he was in Dune 2 this year, but I don't know. They pull enough.
So, to wrap it up, who takes Best Picture?
My money is still going to be on the Brutalist as much as I want Anora to win.
Okay, because here's my pick. I think Anora takes the cake.
Okay,
Anora takes Best Picture. We'll see next time we speak. So, Zach, do you want to sign us off and say goodbye
definitely.
to the people?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed our first round the sun with this trip. If you're curious to hear more about Below the Line, you can reach out to us on our Instagram pages. My handle is the Zach Houston. Andres?
Mine is Jaro2096, and be sure to follow us at Below the Line Podcast.
Yeah,
Uh, the links will be available in the description of the profile of the podcast channel, as well as our YouTube channel and everything. So, yeah,
awesome. Well, thanks you so much again, man. And we are signing off. Have a good night,
yeah.
folks.
Stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you so much.